So last week I was here standing outside the house of the Burmese democracy leader Aung San Suu Kyi when Obama visited. And there was this tremendous sense of excitement in the air, which it's very hard for me to describe. And then later on that evening I was back at my hotel reading Brave New World by Aldous Huxley about this sterile future world. And one of the big parts of that is the idea of the Feelie, which is this sensile, tactile, immersive experience that distracts the population from the world around it. You lie on the bearskin rug, you feel the hairs, you feel your lover's lips, but you don't think about the world. And I thought about, what if we changed that and thought, what is a Feelie for human rights? What would that look like? Which expressed that joy, that fear, that experience that many of the people I work with face on a daily basis. And the big problem that they confront is trying to communicate that reality to people around them, as well as to distant audiences. So what would a Feelie for human rights look like in that context? And I started thinking about what we might think of as the move towards immersion. So immersive media, immersive technologies. How could these help us to think about how we communicate about these types of crises in distant places? Now this is already starting to happen. I actually think that live casting is a type of immersion. And certainly in the human rights world, that ability to watch what's happening in Homs or in Benghazi or even the streets of Occupy is a powerful way of communicating reality. And clearly, telepresence, live video, that's part of the reality of commerce and business and the military. Here, Obama in the Situation Room watching that raid on Osama bin Laden's compound. And it's increasingly part of course, wearable computing. So it's being passed on to us at a much more consumer level. And in the human rights world, we're trying out experiments. This is the virtual Guantanamo, where you can feel what it's like to be in a stress position in a virtual reality experiment. And we're also trying slightly less clever, slightly more surreal experiments like the Davos refugee run, where the wealthy and the powerful attending the World Economic Forum feel what it's like to be a refugee for a day. But I kind of feel this is just the start, really. And my assumption is that, of course, the pleasure industry and the porn industry is going to drive immersion towards far greater heights in the future. So I want to look ahead and think, what is a Feelie going to look like? So what's it going to look like? What is it going to be like when we can have the experience of being in a forced eviction in Cambodia or on the streets of Aleppo? Now, what challenges and opportunities that open to us? One of the big problems, if you're a human rights activist, and it's our real bugbear, is the idea of denial, is that it's so easy, and I'm going to paraphrase Auden's words, to say horrible things happen and we go about our daily lives. And here I do have some optimism, because I actually think one of the real powers of immersing ourselves in a situation is that we can challenge one of the key elements of denial, which is it's so easy to be a passive bystander when you don't feel the real texture of a situation. It's so much harder when you can smell the tear gas and feel the sensation of your feet on the ground. And I think that would make a difference both to those teenagers from Coney 2012 and maybe even to Senator Harry Reid. That's a harder sell. I do have a concern about this. I'm an Enlightenment kid, so I worry about this balance of reason and emotion. And the real thing about immersive experience, this kind of feeling is believing, this sort of evolution of that, is it seems to overwhelm the idea of reason as the reason we might respond to that distant crisis and place emotion there. And of course, Susan Sontag, if she was rewriting regarding the pain of others and making it feeling the pain of others, would worry about compassion fatigue. This idea that when we see too much of this, feel too much of this, we pay no attention, we give up. And I really felt that actually in the last couple of weeks as I watched these images from Gaza. I was like, I don't need to be immersed in this. Just watching the social media flow is enough to make me feel tired and exhausted. And I also wondered, should we be watching this? If we could be immersed in this, should we be? And I thought back to this incident. And I was like, if I could have been on that street, feeling what it was like to be in the Green Revolution, should I have watched this? And so I think about the challenges of immersion. Does it narcotize us like in Brave New World? Does it tranquilize us like Susan Sontag feared? Is it voyeurism? And then I think back to the granny outside Aung San Suu Kyi's office and her elation and excitement. And that for me is the real potential of immersion, is that we could feel the joy and the tremendous excitement that other people feel. And go back to the original reason that they use Brave New World in The Tempest, where Miranda says, "Oh, beauteous mankind." She looked out there and she saw wonderful people when she experienced the world.